Tonight, we hit the halfway point of a Rolling Thunder Racing series, and they say that everything is bigger in Texas, and a win for points leader Daniel Eberhardt would be huge here tonight, as he would continue to carry his momentum into the winter break, but he's not here, so a win would be huge for anyone tonight to see if they can close that points lead. Hello everyone, and welcome to Texas Motor Speedway for round number 10 of a 20-round Rolling Thunder Racing series. This is the OMG Coffee 205 live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi everyone, I'm Samuel Ryman, and alongside me in the booth is Robert Covey. Behind the scenes is our director Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided to us by Dougie Beard. Well, this is the older configuration of Texas Motor Speedway, so a little bit bumpier and trickier here today. Definitely not your average 1.5 mile speedway. Let's take a look at it with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Texas Motor Speedway. They say everything's bigger in Texas, and TMS doesn't disappoint. Located 45 minutes northwest of downtown Dallas and just over 20 minutes north of downtown Fort Worth, Texas Motor Speedway opened back in February of 1996 at a cost of $250 million. Texas Motor Speedway has been a staple on the NASCAR and IndyCar circuits since the first major event was held here back in 1997. TMS is a 1.5-mile quad oval mirroring its sister tracks in Atlanta and Charlotte, but many an iRacer have seen their race come to an end after bouncing off the Turn 2 wall. Now on the back half of the track, Turns 3 and 4 make for some of the most intense and exciting wheel-to-wheel racing in the world. They have led to many memorable finishes in NASCAR and in IndyCar, including 2 of the 6 closest finishes in IndyCar history. The Lone Star Tower stands as one of the most visually stunning structures on the iRacing service. Boy, does it stand out under the picturesque setting Texas sun. Well, that's our look at Texas Motor Speedway. Now sit back, kick up your cowboy boots, and enjoy the show.
Well, we've had these older configurations of racetracks throughout the whole season, and they've put on great races each time, and we're hoping for another one here tonight, Robert.
Yeah, it's just I was just saying, it's amazing being in the booth here, the way these guys run. In Texas Motor Speedway Legacy, 24-degree turns. Not the newest, not as much room if you happen to get a little loose. The back apron isn't really that wide in this configuration, so we'll have to see how well they can control themselves tonight.
Let's take a look at the drivers fighting for the top of the point standings as we approach a halfway point of a season. We can tell you, as we said at the top of the show, that Daniel Eberhardt is your points leader, and look at that, with 4 wins out of 9 races this season, he has extended his points lead to now 38 points over Jared Mogard. However, Daniel isn't here tonight, so he's going to lose a bit of that points lead. Who is going to be there to pick up the pieces? Look behind Jared Mogard. Not a lot of points covering the drivers behind him. Dylan Jones, Colin Weatherholt, Scott Crump, Jason Maines. That's 20 points right there from 2nd to 6th. So very tight. And now let's have a look at our race details, Robert.
Well, here we are. We are now halfway through this season. Coming in round 10 of 20, 137 laps, NASCAR Gen 4, fixed setup, no spare car for these drivers, so if you get in an incident, you're going to be sitting in the pits. 4 total tire sets, 3 in the pits, starting out with one green, white checkered attempt should the caution come out near the end of the race.
And one big change heading into this race that we haven't seen all season, they're doing away with the old school restart rules. So we will see double file restarts like we do in modern NASCAR racing if we get some cautions tonight. Well, qualifying has just started here. Every driver is going to have a track to themselves for 2 minutes. We have a decent hand of about a couple dozen cars here. That seems par for the course this season, Robert. We've had great fields of about 20 to 30 cars each time.
Yeah, not many. Most of the fields have been filled up. We've had pretty much 24, 25 cars every race. Good, respectful drivers. Everybody giving everybody room. But just like any race, there's some guys that'll get their elbows out, maybe get a little upset, and maybe just make a mistake, leading to maybe incidents like we had in the last round, gathering up a few cars right at the beginning of the race, which could hurt a lot of people or help a lot of people, especially as with you saying, Daniel Eberhardt not being here tonight.
Yeah, we've had 2 races this season. Oh, there's a big moment coming off of turn 2 there for the driver on screen. We've had 2 races this season where we've had wrecks very early on at Las Vegas and at Bristol last race, as you were saying. Now, this is a number 15 car of Jared Mogard, I believe, on screen. We just saw cross the line there. So he's changed up the paints on that number 15 machine.
Yeah, coming into the second half of the season with something a little different, maybe boost himself up a little bit and get himself a little bit more TV time, which he's getting right now. And who knows, maybe the new color scheme will allow him to be at the front of the field.
You'll get a good indication here on whether lap 2 is going to be faster for these drivers. 28.6 his time to beat, and he does go faster, 28.5, and briefly beats Colin Weatherholt as he spins, but he's already finished his qualifying attempt. Is that Colin crossing the line right there? No, that's the number 69 of Randy Nichols a bit further back, but Weatherholt has not been able to beat Mogard. Seth Reed has, though. There we go. Seth Reed to the top.
Yeah, the car can get really loose. It doesn't matter which configuration of Texas. I mean, you can get so loose coming out of 2. You can get really loose coming out of 4. I mean, there's so many places to get loose here, and if just that, tenth of a second is going to make a difference as to where you sit through the qualifying run.
It's only 10 cars with laps on the board so far. Still half a field left to go. Ryan Johnson has just bumped himself up into 5th position. We're seeing Dylan Jones here. He's one of the front runners throughout the season. A winner at Richmond. Almost won a couple of races recently as well. A good qualifying will help his chances here. And there you go. New pole sitter, provisional pole sitter, Dylan Jones. So approaching the last couple minutes of qualifying here with Dylan Jones having pole by over a 10th of a second over Seth Reed. Look how close the times are there, Robert. But Dylan Jones has just kind of busted ahead of all of them.
Yeah, Dylan has definitely shown that he has the ability to really bring it to any driver in here. He's probably one of the better drivers against Daniel Eberhardt as we ride on board here with Jacob Manning, who's another driver. I believe we have Cam for him tonight, who has shown he's no slouch. He does have a win on the season. And again, these guys have put on a show. It's been so much fun to be in the booth for this series, and we're only halfway through it. I can't wait to see what these guys do tonight.
And look at who's gone up to second place, Sean Corcoran. Sean has been pretty much a midfield driver throughout most of the season. I mean, I'm not saying that to insult him or anything along those lines, because these are strong fields he's competing against, but he certainly hasn't been up there up front every race. But here we go, him sitting right there second on the front row right now. Could be a good race for that number 43 machine. And so as we approach the final minute of qualifying here, Lane Doyle has turned 1 lap already, a 29.2. Virtually all of the cars have set a lap time right now. As a matter of fact, Trevor Williams just came across the line, and every single driver has turned a time during this qualifying, so nobody sandbagging there at the back, as Lane Doyle finds half a second there on his last lap and moves up to 20th of our 25 cars. A couple new names out there today, by the way. We'll point those out to you when they come up, as Trevor Williams completing his second lap. And I believe, and that was a big jump for Trevor Williams in the number 1 car there. He jumps up to 13th. I believe that will wrap up qualifying. Well, we're not about to jump right into the race. We're about to have a 5-minute warm-up period here for driver meetings and for everyone to take a breather. So while they do that, we would like to give a shout out to some of the people making this broadcast possible, including OMG Coffee Beans. And this is made by local teens who are making fresh roasted coffee. Their motto is, it tastes as good as it smells. We drink all we can, and then we sell the rest. You can find out more about them at omgcoffeebeans.com. Also, coming up this Saturday, December 16th, you can tune in for the Rolling Thunder Money Race, the Battle of the Teams at Daytona, where the winning team will take home $500. Registration is available on the Rolling Thunder Racing Discord. Well, so qualifying has concluded, warm-up underway here, and what are you hoping to see out of these drivers tonight, Robert?
I'm expecting to see, they've shown they can be aggressive. They've shown they can be passive. I mean, we've seen just about everything from them here. And, back to a mile and a half, coming into the winter break, no Daniel Eberhardt. I think we're gonna see quite a few drivers maybe try and take advantage of the fact that he's not here and really show what they are capable of doing on a mile and a half track.
And it's going to be a few weeks until the next race, because next week they're doing the All-Star race, a non-points race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and then we have the Christmas and New Year's weekends after that, so I don't think they'll be racing on those weekends. So we're looking at a fairly lengthy break before the second half of the season kicks off, so you really want a good finish tonight to kind of give you some momentum during this winter break.
Well, definitely, because you have to remember too, now that we are halfway through the season, drop points, drops within the point standings aren't going to shift you around very much. It's all going to come down to how well you drive and where you finish. And then, come back after the new year and into the new season and, kind of look at it as a new season saying, this is where I'm at. Can I get higher or do I want to stay here? And I think we're going to see some elbows out tonight, and some drivers maybe trying to take advantage of this track.
So 9 races so far, and Eberhardt has won 4 of them. That means 5 races have been won by drivers other than Eberhardt. Who are they? Well, they were Jason Maines, who won the season opener at Daytona. And then we had Jared Mogard, who we saw running that new livery just a moment ago, the red and yellow car out there. He won Las Vegas. Scott Crump has been one of the top performers this season. He won in a photo finish over Dylan Jones at Atlanta, but don't worry, because one race later, Dylan Jones got him back by winning at Richmond. The only other driver to win this season was at Darlington, where Jacob Manning got the checkered flag there. So that makes a total of 6 different winners so far this season.
Yeah, this field is wide open. There is, got to stop saying him when he's not here, but he's not here, and that, Eberhardt has shown that he's the one to beat, but every driver in here really kind of has the ability to beat him. And, same thing, Jacob Manning, he struggled there at the beginning of the season, really came to it in Darlington. You remember from the interview, I mean, he was still shaken. He couldn't believe he actually won that race. I'm looking for a lot from him tonight as well. He usually does well on these tracks, but nobody's out of contention. This is 10 more races to go. A lot can happen in this series.
So the drivers' meeting has concluded, and the drivers out there on track for one final minute of practice here, and then we'll give you a full grid rundown in just a few moments here on the GSRC, and get ready for 137 laps of racing action. Again, a new rule now is that they will be doing double file restarts. We shouldn't have to worry about it becoming a timed race if there are yellows, because it's a 3-hour time limit, so should easily be able to get the race in without that window. And as I'm watching the cars go round, I'm just picking out drivers here and there that it's like, that driver could get their first win, that driver could get their first win. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the one on screen right now, the 51 of Seth Reed. He's been getting close.
Yeah, it's all going to be whoever can tame this track. I mean, in a legacy configuration, standard configuration, Atlanta, Texas, this track can really throw you off, and it can throw you off quickly. We haven't seen much with tires around through this series so far. Really curious to see how things handle out tonight with the tires. As I said, so far it really hasn't been anything except during pit stops when somebody's got fresh tires, but Texas is known for burning them up.
Yeah, tire strategy is definitely it's definitely a consideration for these drivers because of how limited they are on tires. We'll have to see how the race pans out. All right, let's give you our full starting lineup then. It is Dylan Jones and Scott Crump who will be starting first and second, both former winners this season. Sean Corcoran with an impressive qualifying there in third place, with the aforementioned Seth Reed starting 2 years outside in fourth. Justin Rideout, a name we don't see out there competing all that often, starting fifth place ahead of Jared Mogard. And then Colin Weatherholt, another driver to keep an eye on, trying to get his first win, start seventh ahead of Ryan Johnson, who you could say the same thing. Traker Bermanin, winner from Darlington, starts ninth, and Randall Nichols rounds out the top 10.
Coming in row 6 is James Shanawolf, I believe is one of the newer drivers, alongside Jason Maines. In 12th, Trevor Williams and Brenton Barker take up row 7, with Bo Tiffany in row 8 alongside Michael Larch. Row 9 is Jordan Berube with Luke Smith, and row 10 is Matthew Robinson alongside Jared Haynes.
And then rounding out this 25-car field are Lane Doyle, William Schwindenhammer, Dean Gagliano, Joshua Seuss, and Craig Bridge, who I believe is also making his first start of the season. Pace cars underway, just one pace lap around the Texas Motor Speedway here. Let's take a quick look at our onboard drivers. And there we go, we have 4 of them racing here today. Ryan Johnson, Jacob Manning, Justin Rideout, and Joshua Susson. You can see them all swerving left and right, getting heat in the tyres before the drop of a green flag.
Yeah, everybody just really, a little tense here, getting ready for the green flag. Should be a really good race tonight. Really, really looking forward to this as they come down the backstretch. Going to come through 3 and 4, and we are going to see some good racing in the Gen 4.
So Dylan Jones is your pole sitter in that white and, I was going to say white and black car. Both the cars on the front row here are white and black cars. Dylan Jones is the one on the inside. Scott Crump is starting on the outside. That's Sean Corcoran in the Petty machine, and then Seth Reed in a bit of the Greyer machine out there, starting on the outside of row number 2 in 4th place. Pace truck is off. 137 laps of racing action ahead of us for the OMG Coffee Beans 205. Here we go. Lean start for the field. There's a battle for second, but one of the bigger movers here seems to be Jared Mogard, who started 6th and was thinking about 4th.
Yeah, Dylan got off to a great start there. Has opened up a bit of a lead on Seth Reed and Crump, but they've got into him there. That's the thing with the, coming back from the shorter tracks. Now you've got that draft. Now you've got that car in front of you, breaking the air, allowing you to pull up on them. We should see some really, really good close racing here. And Seth Reed's around Dylan Jones to take over first place.
And for you Dylan Jones fans, don't get too disheartened, because every now and then we've seen throughout the season some drivers will know that tyres are concerned in the long run here. We normally have green flag runs during this series, and they might just run it at 95% early on. Let Seth Reed go out there, lead the race for a bit, but maybe it won't work for him in the long run.
Well, usual drafting rules too, right? The guy out front's the guy that's going to use the most fuel. So, definitely a strategy play. If Seth feels he's got the car and he's not worried about his fuel, the bigger the lead he can open up, which he's actually doing a pretty good job here, opening up almost a half a second lead already over Dylan Jones, which is surprising that Dylan's allowing him to kind of pick that far away.
It's been a clean start throughout the whole field, covered by just 5 seconds here, a couple laps in. We still have some racing in the middle of the field, around 16th place, with Jared Haynes and Brenton Barker back there. But up front, like you say, things getting a bit spread out.
Yeah, again, like I said, everybody's come from short track, so things have changed quite extensively. I'm actually really surprised to see, Colin Weatherholt down in 7th. He's shown he's pretty good at, long tracks. Jared Mogard running well, running in 5th right now. Jacob Manning in 8th. Everybody's in there. Everybody's playing around. We'll see how they get through this first stint of fuel, and we'll see whether or not they can keep it clean tonight.
You can see there's a big gap that's opened up between the top 9 cars and the top 10 cars and back to 11th place. Ryan Johnson at the back of that lead pack is about a full second ahead of Jason Maines leading that second pack. So a bit of shuffling there in the middle of the field has created a bit of a gap between those guys.
Well, usually you've got 2 lines.
Oh, we've got trouble at the back of the second pack. They're still pointing in the right direction, though. No caution.
That's Bo Tiffany got into the wall, yeah. Well, he got into the pits, though, so he might be okay.
It was a hard hit. He wasn't the only other one. He wasn't the only car involved. It was coming off of turn 4. Someone got sideways. I think Jared Haynes was the other one who got big damage. I'm looking at the 89 car running towards the back, and the front of that car's a bit crumpled up.
Yeah, and that is what happens here in Texas. You know, somebody gets loose in front of you, and I mean the momentum and the speed you're carrying here, he's just got no time to really react. These guys probably just a little bit too much of a run. See if we can get it here as to what happened. Here comes our replay. Ooh, tried to take it too wide and just slid up the track.
Yeah, they both kept it pointing in the right direction. That's Tiffany up high, and then they were 3 wide, and I think that's kind of just what triggered that. Very lucky it wasn't bigger than what it was.
Yeah, that could have been a very disastrous happening at the front of the field, but it happened at the back, and looks like everybody may be okay here. We will definitely have to see what's going on. Big hard in the.
Brenton Barker, the 77, has just wrecked coming through turns 3 and 4, and he quit and towed to the pits before he got slammed by oncoming traffic. So kudos to Brenton there, who's had a bit of a rough season, to be honest.
Yeah, now we've got our caution out on lap 10. It seems like everybody's starting to, as I was saying, everybody's starting to really get their elbows out here. First part of the season there, we were probably through 1-2 fuel stints before we saw any incidents, and now we seem to keep seeing them, right at the beginning of the race.
I'll get a replay for you momentarily here. You shouldn't. This is strange. I'm guessing maybe they're doing fuel only. I wouldn't expect, with the limited amount of tyres these drivers have, I would not expect anyone to be taking tyres just 10 laps in the race. I think all of these drivers are topping off with fuel to try and cancel out a pit stop later on.
Well, we did learn from our driver that's not here tonight that, these tires can go further than a fuel stint. Doesn't really matter what track you're on. So, yeah, definitely come in, top that fuel up. If everybody's going to come in, you're not going to lose your positions. You should still be able to run clean and, run a few more laps before you actually have to make that pit stop.
So only 4 cars stayed out. Our race leader, Seth Reed, Sean Corcoran, who started third, to drop back a little bit, James Shane Wolf, and Jared Haynes, who will be coming to repair damage. That was Trevor Williams who got into the back of Brenton Barker there, and Brenton's day is obviously done.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a doing or if that's an iRacing. Just have to take a look here. That's a combination of a little bump and some serious neck code, just the way the car's shot off to the right there.
Yeah, and kudos to Brenton again for exiting out of a sim and not having other drivers slam into him. So yeah, we've got 4 drivers staying out here. I would imagine that Jared Haynes would be coming into the pit save with the damage on that 89 machine. I'm surprised he's still out there.
Well, depending on the damage, I mean, a lot of times if the wheel's still straight, you'll run the car and then get as much repaired as you can when you come in for a full line pit stop. We'll have to see how he manages out there with the damage that he's got and how it's affecting his car.
Trevor Williams given an EOL penalty for his role in that incident with Brenton Barker that has brought out this caution, but he'll continue to go. It does mean he'll have to mind his P's and Q's for the rest of the race. We saw last week at Bristol, if you cause 2 incidents during a race, you are kicked out of a race.
It surprised us both last week there, yeah, that it's 2, not 3. I'm just looking at my timing screen here, and I mean, Jared Haynes started back in 20th. He is now running in 4th, up 16 spots, obviously because I do not believe he pitted. Yeah, so he has not pitted. Shannon Wolf is not pitted, Corcoran is not pitted, and Reed is not pitted. So these drivers are going to have about 10, 11 laps more of fuel on them. So if we come around and we do green flag pit stops, this could really hurt those first 4 drivers.
Yeah, because the fuel window is about 30 to 35 laps, so that's why these drivers are coming into the pits. Just doing the math in the long run, you can maybe cancel out a pit stop. Field getting double file, that's the first time we've seen this season, double file restarts. Now, again, for the top 4, they do not have a tyre disadvantage. It's just a fuel disadvantage that they have. That if it goes green, they'll have to come in about 10 laps earlier than the rest of the field. But the drivers behind them didn't take tyres because they're limited on the sets of tyres. Save them for when they're about 30, 40 laps into the race.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out for them. You know, maybe they're counting on guys being aggressive and another caution come out as we see them. But, you know, once again, pace light, shark lights are out. We're coming down the back straight into 3 and 4. And we're going to get back to some racing and see if they can clean this up and see what these guys can do after not stopping for fuel.
Seth Reed will be leading the field to the green in that grey number 51 machine, and then the STP Petty Blue car up on the high side is Sean Corcoran. The 25 there is Shane Wolf, who I think you mentioned it, Robert. I think this is his first race of the season. And Jared Haynes in the 89 restarting 4th with the Din in the front of his car. Here we go, back to green flag racing on lap 13. Oh, he may be new to the series, but Shane Wolf is on a bit of a run here, up to 2nd place.
Yeah, definitely got some pace with him. Managed to get off to a really good start there. He's going to contest for the lead here right now, right off the bat. It's going to grab him down into 2 and 3, or 1 and 2. I think I'm on the right part of the track.
No, 3 and 4, but yeah, here we go. He's in the lead, so right position.
Yeah, it looks like Corcoran's going to kind of take advantage of him too. Look, everybody's just kind of going underneath him here. I don't know if maybe a little bit extra weight of fuel is giving them a little bit more grip, but surprised to see him fall back so quickly here.
Well, I think it's a combination of 2 things. 1, he got up there on the high line, and it looks like that's just not as fast right now. And 2, let's not forget that he kind of looked like he might have been burning off his tyres in the opening laps. So maybe he's paying the price for that now that they've all been bumped to back up.
Well, I'm just looking back here at Jared Haynes. You know, started in 20th position, he's down into 10th, did not pit. So all of our cars have kind of lost out except for James and Sean. Seth Reed has lost out, and, you know, Jared Haynes has lost out by not stopping for that fuel.
Yeah, I think this was a bit of a test for Jared to see how badly that car is damaged. Would he be able to keep it up towards the front there with that damage? And the answer obviously is no, and also suffering a little bit from connection issues there.
Yeah, it's always the thing you don't want to see is connection issue problems, because anything can happen. And if it happens to you in front of everybody, maybe a wheel disconnect, you throw a shift because something's not working, it can be disastrous for the entire field.
It's just taking a look at the back of the field. Last car on the lead lap is Joshua Sussin, 23rd, and he's actually carrying a bit of damage on the front of his car. And look at this then, a battle for the lead between 2 drivers we don't always talk about, Sean Corcoran and James Shane Wolf. So Sean Corcoran to the lead. He's having his best day of the season, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely a good drive by him. You know, he's, last round, pretty far down in the standings. Is, maybe he's found his pedal. He's found his way to, keep this car under control. And we will watch him move forward right now, holding on nicely to the lead. But Shane Wolf showing, in his first race, he's no slouch. But now he's got to deal with Dylan Jones, who, again, is somebody who likes to be in the lead of the race.
So here comes Dylan Jones up into second place. Oh, almost a little bit of contact there going down the front straight, and we'll see if Seth Reed has anything to say about that as well. He might try and take third place. Now that he's got down on the low line, he's pushing the other competitors back up high.
Yeah, I saw that little wiggle out of him on exit. That's what you got to worry about when you take that low line through there. But it's shown that if you can hold it on that low line, you can get the guy on the outside. You can get him coming out of the corner. You just got to be really, really careful that rear end does not step out on you, and that if it does, you can catch it. As he's going to make a run for him, see if he can get underneath him. But yeah, just not going to give him the room here. Going to keep his position, make Shane Wolf work for it a little bit.
So the front of the field are really getting spread out there overall, but still have these little battles going on lap 21 of 137. Again, we think pit stops will kick off around lap 35, the first round of pit stops, as we're watching Scott Crump, our winner back from Atlanta, try and take fourth place.
Well, I think these drivers are going to go for it, because of that pit stop. We were 10 laps in. They're probably good for about lap 45, maybe lap 46. We will have to see. But our drivers that did not pit, definitely going to be having to come in the pits around lap 30, between lap 30, lap 35, depending on how much they can stretch it, being back in the draft, maybe save some fuel because they did not make that pit stop.
You can see out of front of Crump's onboard here that I think a lead might be about to change hands once again, as Dylan Jones has run down Sean Corcoran and is looking all over the back of him. Sean has the lead going into the turn, drifts up into that middle lane though, and I think that's all that Dylan needs, and we're going to have a new leader here coming across the line.
Yeah, really split it coming out of turn 4 there. Really good control by him, but you can see him just kind of slide that car up the track, keep it straight, and just take over the lead. And just amazing how these guys drive these cars sometimes, and some of these guys can really slide these cars around the corners and pick up their positions that they want.
So 24 cars on the lead lap, and Dylan Jones is leading them, but the top 8 or so covered by 2 seconds. Car in 8th, we haven't really given a shout out yet today. That's Ryan Johnson in the number 38. So just keep an eye on him, because he's certainly a driver who could be there at the end.
Yeah, and I'm just taking a look at a couple of our other drivers, like Jacob Manning, one of our drivers we even have on board tonight. Has shown us that he can be really strong on these tracks, but he's dropped almost 9 positions here, and I'm not sure if he had a moment or what happened to him, but he just doesn't seem to be on pace right now, unless he's just kind of hanging back and waiting until the end of the race to really jump himself forward.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too worried if I'm a bit far back right now, because you can see the intervals there. 22 cars are still covered by about 8 seconds. Everyone's still within reaching, within reach of one another. And I think Jacob Manning is making a pass here as we ride on board.
Yeah, he moved up. Yeah, he's there. He seems to be, pretty comfortable with the car right now. Doesn't seem to be having a lot of problem. Not a lot of wheel movement with him there. But yeah, doing just, maybe just like you said, just sitting back. They have shown that they are willing to sit back in the first few laps. And maybe tonight that's what he's going to do. He's going to save it all and come off very, very strong here once we get past our last pit stop.
Up front, you can see that Seth Reed has now worked his way up to second, and Sean Corcoran, who was leading for the longest time, is now dropping back. And there we go. Mogard actually passed him up high. I don't think we've seen that a whole lot today. So Jared Mogard proving that can be done, as he's up to 5th, and now Corcoran dropping. Oh, he's gone up too high. He's going to go all the way to the back of a train now. And we got one car on the apron back here. What's going on here?
That's the 1777. No,
okay, mate.
That's Lane Doyle.
Yeah, I've got to imagine he's kicking off our first round of pit stops, trying to use the undercut strategy here.
Well, no, he's only 17 laps into this stint, so maybe he scraped the wall. I can't see a reason for a pit stop 17 laps into a stint. He is getting tires here. Yeah, he's got a little bit of damage there. Maybe affecting him, but...
I just watched the replay. He hit the wall coming off of turn 2, the lap he came in.
Okay, so yeah, you know, scrub the wall a little bit. If you scrub it the wrong way, it's definitely going to affect your car. So probably going to get, you know, full service and just allow himself to get some of the repairs done on his car. Yeah, pretty hard bounce there off the wall. Probably took his toe out a little bit.
So haven't kicked off first round of stops quite yet. Oh, I think we've got some action coming out of turn 4. It's I think James Shane Wolf. Yeah, he had the moment coming off of turn 4 because look, he's dropped back to 8th here, I think, and he was in 5th. So something happened to that 25 car coming out of a turn.
Yeah, this thing with it's such a big track, so much can happen that you can't see right now. Yeah, it's just we're still green, which is good, but we should be seeing our drivers that did not pit coming in here very shortly. Jared Haynes, 31 laps, 32 laps. You know, Sean Corcoran, James Shane Wolf, these guys are going to have to pit within the next 3 to 4 laps while everybody else is still out there running. Seth Reed, who's running in second right now, is definitely going to have to stop for fuel before everybody else, which could really hurt him, especially if that thing happens and they get caught in the pits.
Well, 3 cars have officially dropped out of the race now. Lane Doyle, Bo Tiffany and Brenton Barker. So that takes us down to 22 cars remaining. The good news first is they're all on the lead lap, although Joshua Suss is quite off the pace. Speaking of being off the pace, Jared Haynes, remember he restarted 4th and he pretty much dropped to the back with that damage on the front end.
Well, this is Jared's first pit stop, so if he's coming in, he's got to get fuel. He got 33 laps out of that stint, so definitely going to take fuel and tires here on this. We'll have to see how long this pit stop lasts, but that pretty much means we're probably going to see Seth Reed drop out a second and come in for fuel as well, and Sean Corcoran will probably be coming in the pits alongside him. Yeah, and there's James Shane Wolf. He's in the pits, coming in for his fuel. Managed to get 34 laps out of his, so yeah, we're looking at anywhere from 32 to 34, 35 laps, depending on how hard you're running the car.
Sean Corcoran coming in as well. He dropped to the apron in turn 3. I think I recall watching him do something similar at an earlier race this season, where he's not as aggressive on pit entry as other drivers, and it can cost you a bit of time.
Yeah, it can cost you a bit of time, but you know, sometimes it can hurt you too if you're a little bit too aggressive and you get caught with a speeding penalty or something like that. So, you know, give and take, obviously a little bit there. So I'm expecting Scott Crump to be coming, or Seth Reed coming in the pits. Yes.
So Seth Reed, really the first one of our big leaders out here today to come into the pits, which honestly probably means he'll be leading the race when this all cycles through.
If he can. I mean, right now he's going to come out of the pits. He's going to be a lap down and the lucky dog. So we do have the lucky dog here. So, you know, maybe waiting like that is going to be very advantageous for him, that he will get the lucky dog and get back on the lead lap if something happens and he gets caught down. But yeah, once everybody's going to have to cycle in here probably, I would say, within the next 5-6 laps. We're at 26. Some of those drivers went 34. I think was our furthest. Our Seth Reed went 36. So we're at 26 laps on the stint right now. So yeah, another 10 laps, we should see them coming in.
But the reason we're keeping an eye on the drivers who pit is the ones out here on the older tyres are running 1.5 seconds a lap slower than what they were at the start of a race. So the likes of Sean Corcoran and Seth Reed are going to be a lot faster for the next 10 laps. But the thing is when those 10 laps are over and everyone who pit under that lap 10 caution came in, they're just going to run the Corcoran and Seth Reed back down, and they're going to have the advantageous tyres for 20 laps. And there you see Sean out there running the fastest lap of a race of 28.8. That is the only 28, I think, that's been ran all race long.
Well, and the thing is, too, is, I mean, yeah, you can run really fast. You can run, you know, they've got really good pace now, but now we're 39 laps into this. They got to deal with traffic, too, which can, you know, really take away that advantage of that speed, as you may have to work your car a little bit harder to get through some traffic.
Correct the stat there as we watch a nice little battle on track. Jordan Berube has run 28.9, so Jordan Berube had a good lap. But look at that for Seth Reed, a 28.7. So, boy, they're really trying to make the most of those new tyres, and who can blame them?
Yeah, he was out there. He knows he's got a fast car. He knows he can compete. So, you know, definitely he's going to want to get up as far as he can. Joshua Suss, James Shanewolf right now is in the position for the lucky dog. So these guys are definitely going to race it out to see who can get in the lucky dog here if we continue to go green.
Yeah, well, these guys are trying to make sure we don't continue to go green because they were almost 3 wide down there, down the back straight. That's Ryan Johnson in the 38 car ahead of Colin Weatherholt in the 20 and Javid Mogard in the 15. And because of cars pitting in front of them, this is now for 3rd, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, we've got Jordan Berube, William Schwindenhammer, Craig Bridge, all in the pits here after a 30-lap stint. So interesting call. Surprised to see, but again, anything can happen here, and we've still got a lot of laps to go in this race.
Jordan Berube and William Schwindenhammer both overshot their pit stall. Trevor Williams now into the pits. He's trying to recover from that EOL he got for getting into the back of Brenton earlier.
Yeah, all in all, some good racing. You know, little positions here and there. I think everybody's settled down here a little bit. Want to get through the first cycle of pit stops, but that's when it's that's when things really get interesting. When we got cars that need to get down in the pit, maybe somebody's on their inside and they can't get down there. Definitely going to be interesting with these front runners that are going to have to pit in about 8 laps.
Yeah, let's ride on board the 43 of Sean Corcoran because he is having to make his way through slower traffic right now. He's gotten through most of it, but it's been a little bit adventurous. This is what new tyres feels like.
Well, yeah, new tires are always great, but they do burn off on you. But and the thing is, too, is, having to take that lone line, those, coming around these slower cars, if they're going to let you through nice and clean, that low line can get pretty scary here at Texas. As I was saying, you come out of 1 and 2, you come out of 2, there's a small bump, if I remember correctly, in the legacy version that will actually upset the car a little bit depending on how you come through. So got to be careful with that as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a penalty for Jason Maines. He really looked to be speeding a little bit coming in. Talking about coming in, our leader, Dylan Jones, into the pits. Now, again, for those of you new to the series or new to the concept of motor racing, Dylan Jones will likely be behind Jason Maines and Sean Corcoran after his stop, and they'll be the provisional leaders, but he'll start running them down by probably about half a second a lap.
Yeah, and this is where it becomes interesting because, as you were saying, I mean, you get these new tires underneath you, you got a full load of fuel, lots of confidence, but I mean, we're 45 laps in, there's some rubber on the track, the lines are different, you've got other guys that maybe have a little bit older tires. This is where it gets interesting to see, who can be aggressive but can keep it clean and move themselves forward.
Yeah, Seth Reed has already long gone by Jones, but of course, again, Jones will be faster. There's Crump in the car closest to you. There's a Mogard in the background there. You can see Justin Rideout is currently leading the race. He hasn't came in yet, nor has Jacob Manning.
And Jacob Manning is just taking over the lead of the race from Justin Rideout as he jumped into the pits there. So, as I was saying, you never know what's going to happen with Jacob there. He has shown he knows what to do on these long tracks, but looks like he might be slowing down here, maybe coming in for his pit stop as well.
Yeah, and the consensus, just the trial and error that we've seen throughout the season in this series is that you don't want to short pit, even though it does give you that boost. It puts you to the front of the field. It puts you on the back foot for the next stint. So we'll see. Seth Reed pitted earlier than many of the leaders. You can see he's up there in 4th now, waiting for the top 3 left to pit. We'll see how long he can hold on to the lead of a race.
Yeah, as everything starts to cycle through now, Seth Reed's going to move into first place here with Sean Corcoran behind him. But again, they're out of the pit cycle. They're at a completely different strategy than the rest of the field. And again, this can be very, very helpful when we come down and we get going here. You know, 2 more pit stops at least to go. And so definitely could be an advantage for them throughout as we come closer to the end of this race.
Yeah, Dylan Jones 2.2, 2.1, 2.0. Look at that timing column in the top left there. 1.9 seconds down. He is running Reed and Corcoran down almost a second a lap, honestly.
Yeah, he's shown he's no slouch in this car. He definitely knows how to handle it. He knows how to drive it and preserve his equipment. He's shown he's been able to hold on quite well. So just making his way through everybody here, and you know, as he makes his move on Corcoran here, go up and take second position from him.
And I think he'll have first very soon as well. So we've got a few drivers a lap down now. Craig Bridge, Jacob Manning, Jared Haynes and Joshua Suss. Joshua and Jared, I think, have been carrying a bit of damage. Jacob Manning and Craig Bridge surprised me a little bit. I wonder if they were both late in the pit cycle there, and they might actually be able to unlap themselves on new tyres.
I'm wondering if, you know, Jacobs, he's dropped all the way down. I believe he's in the pits. So I'm not sure why he's in the pits. Maybe he had a moment that we've missed. But yeah, he's definitely in the pits there with something going on with his car, getting some repairs.
You have to wonder if maybe it was for a speeding penalty if he came back in.
Oh yeah, that may be. He may have got a penalty on pit entry. I think you did mention he was kind of going in there a little hot. So yeah, he's back out on track now. But yeah, he's lost 2 laps to the field now. Probably beating himself up a little.
Dylan Jones into the lead, but that was predicted. Go ahead, Robert.
Oh yeah, new tires. You know, Dylan's going to take full advantage of these, but you know, Ryan Johnson's no slouch either. You know, same tires, going to move up on him. And you know, just looking at, you know, Seth Reed is probably the one I've watched the most tonight that's been able to really kind of pull these guys off or run with them, even though he's got, you know, 10 lap older tires than they do. The fuel is really the only thing that's going to hurt him at this point.
Yeah, not even halfway yet. Here's Corcoran dropping back to 6th place, but there's a nice little hole to filter in there. Kind of stop a bleeding while he's out here on 10 lap older tyres and most of the field. Just try and drop back as little as possible. He keeps overshooting the turns though. I really think a low line is the faster way around, and every time he gets kind of caught up there in the middle, that's costing him a few tenths.
Yeah, just probably the car just pushing a little bit for him, and he's just not able to hold it down on that line to grab the momentum and kick the car out of the corner. It is definitely the way you drive around here. How you enter the corner, how you know, and get through mid-corner definitely affects your exit and what you can control while you're going through the corner. Pretty balanced field tonight. You know, our biggest mover right now is Ryan Johnson, who's up, you know, started 8th, has been in 6th position. William Schwindenhammer started 22nd. He's up 8 into 14th. But everybody kind of running pretty much where they started tonight for most of them.
Yeah, and that gap between Dylan Jones and Ryan Johnson holding steady at 1.3 seconds. They're both running about the same time as one another. Now you can see those tyres that we've been talking about. Seth Reed slowly fading back. Once Weatherholt and Mogard get by him here, though, he'll be in 6th place with a decent gap over Sean Corcoran, who won't be catching him because he's on all tyres as well.
Well, if I try and work this out of my head, so they pitted 10 laps earlier. We've had 1 pit stop. We've got 2 more to go. And if he can save between the next few pit stops, the final pit stop, he may be on here with the rest of the field. Realistically, it could work.
Still a long way to go, though. 80 laps left to go, and we'll be approaching the halfway point here momentarily of the OMG Coffee Beans 205. This round number 10 of a 20-round Rolling Thunder Racing Series. As we mentioned, our points leader, Eberhardt, is not here tonight. So it opens the door for a driver to get their first win of the season, or one of 4 drivers to get their second win of the season. Right now, Dylan Jones is looking to do just that. He won earlier this year at Richmond. Ryan Johnson in second does not have a win yet this season, and he's 1.2 seconds away from changing that.
Yeah, Dylan, I'm sure, if you've been watching the season, Dylan was sitting in second place, third place, floating around there in the standings. And, a couple getting caught up in a couple of incidents there in a couple of races has really kind of put him behind the 8 ball. So sure, he's really looking for a win tonight with Eberhard not here, move himself up in that field because he knows he can give it to Eberhard and run at his pace and possibly take have the opportunity to take over the championship lead on him.
Only one driver, 1 lap down right now, and that's the debutant of Craig Bridge. Everyone behind him is multiple laps down. Dean Gagliano is the last car on the lead lap in 18th place, and now that we're deep, now that it's been a long time since we've had the caution flag, I have a feeling you're going to gradually see this where the leader is going to get deeper and deeper into lap traffic until, if this goes green to the end, which I'm not sure it will, but it could, we could end up with only a handful of cars on the lead lap, such as the pace of Dylan Jones right now.
Yeah, still lots of cars on the lead lap. Like I said, everybody's kind of running their own little races here, just running nice and clean, up a couple, down a couple, just kind of biding their time. I'm hoping, or maybe the track is just playing havoc with these cars tonight, where they just can't really get the pace out of them that they want, unless your name's Dylan Jones or Ryan Johnson.
Taking a look at the track right now, as it is the evening hours here in the virtual standard time, but it's in the middle of July 5th, right after Independence Day is when these drivers are racing in the virtual world. But you can see that that's not the hottest track temperature I've ever seen, and not too much wind blowing these drivers around either.
Well, 5 mile an hour can, at these speeds can affect the car, but yeah, I agree with you. It looks like they've actually got a really, really good evening here to run around this track with a fair amount of grip and be able to put their foot down hard coming out of the corners.
So the driver most likely to kick off a second round of stops will be James Shane Wolf. He is on lap 29 of his stint, so we should anticipate seeing him back in within 5 laps. But like you say, if we're talking about 35 lap fuel windows, that's a bit too early to make it to the end of one more stop. You probably want to try and make it to about lap 69 laps to go, 70 laps left to go. We'll see how much longer he can stay out there.
Yeah, we saw Seth Reed I think he went, what was his last one? It's 36 laps. So we know that they can go further depending on how they run the car, and again, if they save fuel. But yeah, I mean, Seth Reed, Sean Corcoran, these are all our drivers. James Shane Wolf, Jared Haynes. These are all our drivers that chose not to pit on that first caution and take the extra fuel. But like I said, if we have drivers saving fuel over the next couple of stints, they may be back on pace to be able to finish this race on the final stop fuel load.
You can see Dylan Jones has now built out the race lead to 2 seconds over Ryan Johnson. So he clicks another one off, 72 laps left to go. And that might be Dean Gagliano in front of him there. No, that's Joshua Suss actually getting ready to go a 3rd lap down.
Yeah, everybody, again, the gaps are pretty wide tonight. I'm really surprised to see. I mean, our closest are Sean Corcoran and Jason Maines, right on top of each other there. But yeah, everybody running well now. I think everybody's kind of settled back in. And I think that's kind of been the last 3 races. It's just nobody's really settled in for those first opening laps. And then once we get through our first pit stop cycle, everybody settles in and we get some good, clean green flag racing.
Yeah, I think a problem with our last race was we were racing at Bristol. So here we go then. James Shane Wolf kicking off a second round of pit stops. A little bit earlier than what I think he would like. But then again, that's providing the race goes caution free until the end, and we're only halfway right now with 2 cautions so far. Looks like Sean Corcoran is coming into the pits as well as a couple other cars.
Yeah, Seth Reed coming in. All of our drivers coming in at about 32. It looks like about 32 laps is what they're getting on a fuel load this round. So we'll have to take some time here and do the math and just see what they're looking at near the end of the race. Everybody else still got about another. If they go 32, everybody's still got about another 8 laps on their in their tank, and see whether or not they can hold on. Justin Rideout is our driver with the lowest stint right now. He's running in 7th place, 22 laps on his tires, so he's got a little bit more fuel than everybody else at the moment.
Yeah, and now you're starting to see why so many cars pitted on lap 10 then. We were told the fuel window was 30 to 35 laps, but if there's drivers who can only get 32 laps on fuel, pitting under that first caution may end up making a difference between whether you have to come in for a splash of fuel or not at the end.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to take a look here and keep an eye on Dylan Jones. 25 laps on the tires right now, running out front. See what kind of fuel he uses before he comes into his pit. See what number he comes in on. But a good possibility is, if you're just out there running by yourself, you're pushing more air out of the way, you're using a little bit more fuel to keep your pace. Maybe you got to pass a driver or two is costing you, and maybe we're only going to see 31, 32 laps out of a tank on this car tonight.
Well, if that's the case, you want to go 3 more laps before making your pit stop. Let's see who pits beforehand, because of course 64 laps left to go. We know you can make it 32 laps, so that would get you to the end on that 1 more stop. And then again, there's also the risk of a caution coming out and messing everything up. Craig Bridge has retired from the race. I did catch a glimpse of his car a moment ago, and I saw a bit of damage on it, so I'm wondering if that led to that decision. So that takes us down to 21 cars left running.
Yeah, shame to see drivers when they have so much damage on the car that it's just not worth it for them to run anymore. But as you were saying there with Dylan Jones, 27 laps. If he comes in on laps 60 to go, he comes in with 60 to go, he will be good. That means he's got to run another 5 laps on this tank of fuel, which he may be able to pull off, but we're going to find out very quickly here.
Yeah, Jordan Berube and William Schwindenhammer both just came into the pits, and I think they were both borderline speeding when they came in. But everyone who hasn't pit yet, I think, is good to make it to the end on 1 more stop.
Yeah, I think it may be close. These drivers are coming in 31 laps on their tires. Ryan Johnson, Jones, Crump, Weatherholt, Mogart, our top 5. Definitely going to be interesting to see who pulls the trigger first and comes down the lane for fuel and tires.
Again, judging by the way the season's gone, most drivers seem to like the strategy where they pit as late as possible. Seems to be the smartest thing to do over the course of the season. So I don't think anyone's going to come in just because they can make it to the end on 1 more stop right now. It looks like everyone's going to go as long as they can before they have to come in. Dylan Jones has now grown that lead to almost 3 seconds over Ryan Johnson, and you can see Scott Crump there passing the camera right now. He is not too far behind from 2nd place, as we've got a battle for 4th on screen there with Colin Weatherholt and Jared Mogard about to go not quite side by side yet, but they're almost there.
Yeah, still some battles going on track. Still some guys trying to move forward. Fresh tires. Those that have made their pit stop going to take full advantage of what they've got. Again, fresh tires feel good. You're going to get out there and you're going to try and move forward as far as you can. Jason Main's the first one to pull the trigger in the normal stint. He's 32 laps on his tires, and there goes Dylan Jones into the pits.
The race leader is in, and he's bringing a couple of the other leaders with him. Dylan Jones looked a little bit conservative coming into the pits there, but honestly, with the lead that he had, why not, give up a couple tenths of a second, you're still going to be leading the race.
Yeah, always nice to have a little bit of wiggle room where you can, make sure you hit your pit stall, make sure you get in clean, don't get a black flag. And that's just kicked off to pit stops for everybody here. So, full round of pit stops here. Drivers are going to move forward. Drivers are going to move back. We'll have to see how this all sorts out once everybody's completed their stops.
Dylan Jones comes back out onto the racetrack then, and wouldn't be too surprised. Seth Reed, I think this is Seth Reed actually coming by now, who, it looks like may get by Dylan Jones temporarily, but that will be shortly lived.
Yeah, and our other, we've got 5 cars right now just coming into the pits, pretty much stretched the car as far as they could, 32 laps. That's going to allow Dylan to retake over the lead here. Once these drivers all cycle in for their pit stops, Michael Larch, Matthew Robinson, probably another lap or 2 before they need to come in, but they will need to come in for fuel.
You gotta feel a little bit here for Seth Reed. It probably, he's probably kicking himself a little bit over not, when he was leading the race earlier on, not coming into the pits with everyone else, and he could be giving Dylan Jones a good run for his money right now. Maybe he would be in position to win this race. But that being said, it's not over. We could definitely have a caution in the final half of this race that could put him back in contention.
Oh, you're going to curse these guys tonight, aren't you, Sam? But yeah, definitely. I mean, he's 11 laps further than Dylan Jones here. 11 laps more on his tires. But yeah, if that naughty word you keep saying happens, definitely an advantage for him if he can keep the car where he's sitting right now.
So Dylan Jones has gone back up to the lead. Seth Reed already 1.5 seconds behind and is going to continue dropping back. I think he was down in 8th position before that last round of pit stops kicked off, and we'll have one final round of pit stops in about 20-30 laps from now, where we'll see who can make it to the end. Well, we will find out who's able to make it to the end and who's able to make it to the end on just one more stop when we come back here on the Global SimRacing Channel. You are watching the OMG Coffee Beans 205 here at Texas Motor Speedway, round 10 of the Rolling Thunder Racing Series. We'll be back in just a moment.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against
Hello and welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway for round number 10 of a Rolling Thunder Racing Series. This is the OMG Coffee Beans 205. OMG Coffee Beans is where local teams are making fresh roasted coffee. Our motto is, it tastes as good as it smells. We drink all we can and we sell the rest. You can find out more at omgcoffeebeans.com. Also, coming up this Saturday, December 16, you can tune in for the Rolling Thunder Money Race, the Battle of the Teams at Daytona, where the winning team will take home $500. Registration is available on the Rolling Thunder Racing Discord. Well, right now, Dylan Jones seems to have control of his field. The gap over second place is now 5 seconds, and that battle for second might soon be brewing between Ryan Johnson and Colin Weatherholt. But the other thing that Dylan Jones is starting to do is put cars a lap down.
Yeah, great pace from Dylan here tonight. He's really settled into the car, really settled into his rhythm. You know, like you were saying, building out almost to a 5-second lead here. Colin Weatherholt nearly 8 seconds behind him. So not a lot of pressure on him right now. He's got lots of space to take his time when he comes up on any cars and just, get around them nice and clean and just keep opening up that gap, keep putting those cars down a lap and see if he can hold on to it for another just under 50 laps.
Well, these two on screen almost brought out that yellow thing we keep talking about, because Luke Smith almost got into the back of Jordan Berube there in turns 3 and 4. Jordan's out there on older tyres, and you can see this pack of 3 cars is going to go right underneath him. This race has really not been kind to the drivers who pitted early or who didn't come in under that lap 10 caution. Sean Corcoran, he was running up there second or third early. He's dropped back to 9th, and he's going to continue to drop back. Seth Reed, he probably could have been fighting for the win of this race. He's dropping back to 6th. That's not a bad finish, but I'm sure he would much rather be up there. But again, this is all with 47 laps left to go. There's still a lot left that can happen.
Oh, definitely a lot that can happen on the track at this point. These drivers have shown they will get their elbows out. They can get frustrated. They're like any other driver. Something happens, you get frustrated, and anything can happen. They're not afraid to battle for position on track. They're not afraid to throw the car in underneath somebody else. So we'll just have to see how this plays out once we come through our final pit stop cycles. But like you were saying, this could definitely hurt Seth Reed as Dylan Jones is slowing down a little bit here behind traffic. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he has lost a lot of time. Like I say, I'm not really sure what all that's about, but Ryan Johnson has brought that gap down to about 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, I saw almost a full second slowdown by him on our timing screen. So I'm wondering if maybe he didn't, just the car got a little loose on him, probably out of 4, which is one of the more treacherous exits.
And Scott Crump has just moved up into 3rd place ahead of Colin Weatherholt. We've had another retirement from the race. Shane Wolf has dropped out, so that takes us down to 21 cars, I believe.
20.
20 cars.
Yeah, so 20 cars, 15 of them still on the lead lap, but I'm sure Dylan Jones is going to try and do something about that. And it looks like he's picked his pace back up here. Just kind of maintaining that lead. But, Ryan Johnson's still closing up on him a little bit. He was quicker last lap by about 1/10 of a second. So if he can do that for a few more laps, he might be able to contest to Dylan here within, before the next fuel window.
That next fuel window will be approaching here in just a few minutes' time. So Jordan Berube is the last driver on the lead lap. Running on slightly older tyres, but that makes a difference here today as we're watching Ryan Johnson go by the lapped car of William Schrindenhammer, the first driver 1 lap down, so he would be in a lucky dog position. You can see Ryan Johnson has about 1/2 a second over Scott Crump there, our new 3rd place driver. Colin Weatherholt was challenging for 2nd a while ago, but now he's dropped all the way back to 4th.
Yeah, I think maybe these drivers, running on your own does use up your equipment a lot more. Just because you don't have that, that break in the air in the draft, you don't have the car's not really going where you want it to, might burn things up a little bit quicker. But yeah, I think we're going to see Seth Reed, probably Sean Corcoran, and a couple of our other drivers pull the trigger here and come in for their final pit stop with a. It's going to be really tight on them if they. We're looking at Sean, who's our first one here. So Seth Reed's 29 laps on this stint. He would have to run another 6 laps on this fuel to be able to make it to the end without some serious saving after his pit stop.
Now, I do wonder, this could be an absolute horrible call, especially if, they're running the tyres down to the cords. I do wonder if you're Seth Reed, if you opt to come in with 34 to go and don't take tyres. Maybe, kind of hope that there is a caution late on where you'll be the only one with a fresh set of tyres sitting in your pit stall.
Yeah, but we've seen that even though we've been told, we kind of figured the tires aren't being used up that much. We've seen the pace difference between new tires and old tires. And I don't know, the loss may just not be conducive to be able to do something like that, but definitely a call. I agree with you there. He's got to try and figure out something here so that when this last pit cycle comes through, he still has a car with 10 laps to go.
Jared Haynes is coming into the pits, but he's multiple laps down after damage early on, so he'll definitely have to have a splash of fuel. Really, you want to try and make it to 33, maybe even 34 laps to go, and you can get to the fuel end with a bit of fuel saving. See if anyone comes in over the next few laps.
Seth has just pulled the trigger. He's in the pits.
Seth Reed? Yep. Yeah, that's not going to make it. I want to watch. I want to see if he does elect to do fuel only. I think it would be a stupid call, but an interesting one.
Well, we'll definitely be able to tell by his how long he sits in the pits there and see whether or not the car goes up. Yeah, there goes the right side going up in the air. So he's going to take tires, but he's going to need to splash and go, or he's going to need something to happen on track for this to be to his advantage when all is said and done.
Yeah, that is a sensible call, but I think that means he won't have, any tyres left if there is a late caution. And here comes Corcoran.
Yeah, so they've shown that, the most they're really able to run here is 32 laps. So anybody that comes in now is going to have to do some extreme fuel saving to reach it to the end. And it's going to be really hard for them. They will end up about 4 laps. They're going to end up about 2 to maybe just 2 laps short. They just need that nasty thing to happen for 2 laps, and then they should be good. I won't say it.
Jordan Berube and William Swindenhammer will be in right about lap 32. Everyone else is safe. They're the only other two I'm a little worried about. But again, if 15 gets into if Mogard got into the back of Weatherhole and bought the thing that must not be named out, that would change everything. However, these are two very skilled drivers, and I don't anticipate that being an issue.
No, I think everything should be fine, but I think some of the drivers that are coming out on new tires now, realizing maybe the strategy isn't going to pay off, as Jordan Berube's in the pits on, 31 laps into the stint. So he's going to be running it really, like I said, I've only seen one driver tonight run 34 laps on a fuel load. So unless you come in lap 32, you're probably going to be a lap short if we go green for the remainder of this race.
I was a little surprised to see Berube in there. We're still waiting. William Swindenhammer should be the next one into the pits, but at this point, I think he can make it.
Yeah, may have to, you take the pit lane and everything else, you may have to save for maybe half a lap. But I think if anybody comes in this lap, next lap should be safe to make it to the end of the race. May have to lift a little bit for a couple of corners, but then they should be safe. Our front runners, however, they really don't have anything to worry about at this point. They've got at least another good 3 laps before they need to come into pit, which will put them down last fuel stop and have enough fuel to reach the end of the race.
That's William Schwindenhammer we just saw coming into the pits. I think he can make it, and everyone who hasn't pit yet can make it. And now the game becomes how far can you go so that you have the freshest tyres at the end of a race. And right now, I don't think it matters if you're thinking about just a win, because Dylan Jones just looks like he's already got his Christmas presents wrapped.
Yeah, he's kind of walking away from them here. Ryan Johnson, Scott Crump, our best battle here really for second and third. The other two spots on the podium at this rate, Dylan has kind of tied up first, and these guys are just going to have to battle it out and see who wants to go 2-3. And how they come out of the pit cycle. Scott Crump actually has 2 lap fresher tires than Dylan Jones, Ryan Johnson, and Colin Weatherholt. So does Jared Mogard. So we'll have to see how this plays out once everybody's in the pits.
I just, as we watch Randall Nichols coming in, I just went to see Seth Reed, who should be running really fast laps right now, and he's not. He is out there intentionally saving fuel, trying to stretch it to the end.
Yeah, it really is the only play right now for some of our drivers. They're just not going to have enough fuel to get to the end. As Dylan Jones is in the pits. Our leader is in for his service.
And again, with a 5-second lead, I mean, honestly, if he'd overshot his pit stall, he probably still would have been able to get out in the lead of a race. Ryan Johnson continues on. He technically leads the race, but of course, once everything cycles through, I think you'll see Dylan Jones back up where he belongs.
Yeah, and I mean, Dylan came in with 32 laps on that stint, and I think everybody's pretty much come in on the same thing. 32 laps was the limit that they're getting out of fuel, whether they're running in a draft or running on their own. So, a few drivers in trouble here, as we were saying. But I think everybody's going to be pretty good to the end of the race, as basically all of our front runners have basically jumped down in and through, except for Scott Crump and Jared Mogard, who are jumping in right now. Yeah, there's Scott Crump into the pits. He came in pretty hot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought too there, Robert.
Yeah, he was on the binders there. He might have been sliding. Hopefully he got it slowed down before he hit that second timing line, but that may not work out well for him.
Let's see. The right side goes up, and then we'll see the left side goes up. But then when the car drops off a jack, is it going to go, or is it going to be sitting there for another 15 seconds? Oh, he was lucky.
Oh, he definitely got away with it, as Dylan Jones has come around and has basically taken over that lead again. Doing a great drive tonight by Dylan. Started first and has just been in control of this race from the green flag for most of this green flag.
And look at just what pitting that lap earlier meant with Dylan Jones there. It means he extends his lead to 6 seconds. That being said, oh, hold on, this is a couple laps earlier, isn't it? So Scott Crump and Jared Mogard do have a few lap advantage over Dylan Jones here. I'm sure Jones still has it under control, but we've got to create a little bit of drama.
Yeah. It's just kind of been one of those nights. Some nights everything works out in everybody's favor, and there's a lot going on. It looks like tonight everybody's just kind of holding on to the car and just basically wanting to survive at this point. I mean, our Ryan Johnson, Scott Crump are I think they're just going to battle for second and third. I think Dylan Jones, unless, but Dylan Jones has pretty much got this one locked in with 25 to go.
Well, you say that, and we're watching this battle for 7th and 8th with Weatherholt and Mains, but the lapped car of Matthew Robinson, whose tyres are only 2 laps newer than Dylan Jones, just unlapped himself and is pulling away.
Yeah, and but there's a lot of track he's got to make up. But definitely an advantage, as we come down closer into the final stages of this race.
This is for second. So this is for second, and these drivers have similar laps on their tyres, Robert.
Yeah, basically, yeah, Ryan's one lap more on his tires than Scott Crump here, but they are running pretty identical times, pretty close to each other. Definitely a good battle between them. I'm sure Scott is, not going to want to give up that second place position, but I'm sure Ryan Johnson is definitely not going to want to let him have it as we ride on board here. But with Ryan Johnson, in third, just, he seems nice and steady, little bit of wiggling he's got going on there. And I think everybody might be struggling with that tonight. It's just that little wiggle out of 2 and that little wiggle out of 4, just not giving you the confidence to stay hard on the car.
Yeah, I noticed that one time when watching our race leader, Dylan Jones, his hands were turning the wheel to the right coming out turn 4, even when he was on the track on his own. Weberholt just moved on by Corcoran for 6 as Corcoran continues to fall back on his older tyres. Keep half an eye on that gap between Dylan Jones and Scott Crump, because again, Crump does have 2 laps fresher tyres, but if that gap comes down, is that because it was 5 seconds and now it's 3.7, is Dylan Jones just maintaining the gap, or is this a legitimate concern?
No, I actually think at this point, Ryan Johnson has settled in to say, you know what, I'm just going to run behind you. Let's get up to Dylan and then we'll battle it out. Because they are closing that gap ever so slowly, running together. The more they battle, the more it plays into the hands of Dylan Jones. So one of them kind of had to give it up and say, let's just go catch him and then we'll fight it out at the end. As we come down to 20 to go.
Yeah, that's Joshua Suss in 20th, and who just moved out the way. The 19th place car is ahead of him.
Yeah, so ever so slightly with that gap, but they just can't catch him.
Yeah, Dylan Jones is catching lap traffic as well, which will hold him up. Ryan. Yeah, I agree with you. Ryan Johnson looking for second on Scott Crump. Why? It looks like they're catching Dylan Jones if they're working together. Maybe not enough, but, give it a chance.
Yeah, for a little while there, they were kind of closing in on him, and then I think maybe Ryan got, just a little bit impatient, and this, maybe he had a run, because that's the thing too. Sometimes when you want to be behind the other car, you get too much of a run on him, and you have to break out of it, and you just lose that momentum. So you see he's backed off a little bit here now, and just see if they can close this gap. But we only got 18 to go. That's a 3.5 seconds they got to make up. They need to run together, and they need to run tight.
We haven't really done a through the field tonight, but I think a top 8 we've given quite a bit of coverage. So let's jump back to Justin Rideout, who just took 8th place actually from Sean Corcoran. He's having a nice race tonight. We haven't really mentioned him a whole lot. I don't think we've mentioned him all season. It might be his first race. Likewise, Michael Larch. He's up here in 10th place, started 16th, so he's up 6 positions from where he started and just having a quiet race, although it might not be quiet for too much longer because Luke Smith is all over the back of him in that multicoloured number 39 machine, running just outside the top 10 in 11th. That's a lapped car behind, going high there. Matthew Robinson is back in 12th position. And then Trevor Williams, who had that EOL early on, he's the last car on the lead lap right now in 13th.
Yeah, really surprised to see. I just see somebody getting the wall. Maybe I was seeing things. Yeah, really surprised there's not more cars on the lead lap tonight. Again, it looks like everybody's kind of struggling with the car. It looks like it doesn't want to hold on exit to be able to really power into it.
Dylan Jones' lead is now 3 seconds. And again, I'm hoping for the sake of competition in the show here that Ryan Johnson just holds station for a little bit. Because I won't be surprised if they can do this. I wonder if Dylan Jones got a little bit complacent there and pitted earlier than he needed to. And now he's suffering the consequences.
Yeah, definitely not sure what's happening there, but yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on for sure.
13 laps left to go. The lead down to 2.5 seconds. Oh, 2.7, okay. But it was 5. So they...
Yeah, they're... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they've halved the lead.
Yeah, definitely closing in on them by running together like that. And of course, Dylan's getting caught up in some lap traffic now, which is, causing him to, get out of it a little bit, maybe not be able to get out of the corners the way he wants to. And, earlier there was, some of these lap drivers are not letting him go. They, really not happy that they're going a lap down and fighting him a little bit. I've been watching. So, that may be affecting him too. These guys are now down to 2.5 seconds with 12 to go.
But stabilising a little bit at 2.7, 2.6 seconds. Dylan Jones has just gotten by a couple of lap cars. So we'll see if Crump and Johnson lose a bit of time when they come up to lap these guys. 11 laps left to go. And at that rate, 11 laps left to go and 2.5 seconds, Crump and Johnson would have to be taking a couple of tenths out of Jones's lead each lap. And I don't think they're doing that anymore.
Well, I'm just looking at the lap timings here, and I mean, they're running 29.9s last lap around. Dylan's, they're only a tenth of a second faster than Dylan right now. So 10 laps, tenth of a second, he's kind of safe at the moment. And I think we're probably going to see Ryan Johnson say he's had enough of this. He knows what's going to happen, and he's going to go for the position here right now.
So the battle for second position as you get the lap comparison there. With less than 10 laps left to go. Now, let's not forget, we're going to see some back markers coming into the pits and in the closing laps, so the leaders are going to have to watch out for them. We're also going to watch this battle for second between two strong performers all season long. The only difference is Crump has a win and Johnson does not.
Yeah, and Johnson's got that low side. Crump's leaving the door open for him. And, if Johnson can get the run out of the corner, he's going to catch him on one of these straights. Just a little bit of wiggle there. Had to back out of it. Okay, settle yourself in. A couple of laps here. But no, he's not even going to. He's going right back at it. And come out of here. He'll come up and come right up in behind him, get as much draft as he can, and try and grab him down into 1 and 2.
Yeah, they've definitely given up on the win of a race at this point. And the good news is even if they hold each other up battling like this, they've got a few seconds over Jared Mogard in 4th place, so they don't really have to worry about him. 8 laps left to go. Looks like again, barring any change in the race, it looks like we know who's going to win this race, but who is going to get second is a question right now. If a caution does come out late, green-white checkers are, 1 attempt, I believe, is implemented.
Yeah, 1 attempt at green-white checkered, and I really hate, these guys got to watch how they battle here. I know, Scott Crump is no slouch. Ryan Johnson is no slouch. They will fight for their position. They will go for it for everything they have. And I mean, these guys are coming really close, just coming close enough to possibly scrape some paint. So be really interested to see what happens if these guys can stick together out of lap traffic with maybe 1 or 2 to go.
Yeah, 2 drivers who would definitely like to see things change are Sean Corcoran and Seth Reed, who had strong races going early on, but this that seemingly non-important decision to not pit under that lap 10 caution has actually turned out to really ruin their races.
Yeah, and it has kind of been the trend this season so far, where these races the laps of these races really put you under scrutiny as to how you use the fuel in these cars, because we've seen cars run out of fuel, we've seen cars have to come in, we've seen cars win the race and not have fuel to do their burnout. So it's been tight all season long.
As a matter of fact, Corcoran right in front of Jones there. I think he'll have to come in next lap, so Jones has got to be a little bit careful, and hopefully they're on the radio to each other and communicating that he doesn't end up running over Corcoran when he comes into the pits here very shortly.
Scott Crump had really lit up there with the lap traffic. Ryan's got 4 to go here. I'm sure Ryan's, they got this lap traffic in front of them. Sure, they want to get around that lap traffic as quick as possible. And, Ryan Johnson saying, look, get out of our way because I want that position. And he's definitely going to go for it. So we come around, 3 to go.
Corcoran has safely made it down to the apron. Oh, he's out of fuel actually over there in turn 2. It's gone just a bit too far. And that's unfortunate. He had such a good start to this race. But yeah, I questioned that call for all the cars that came in under lap 10. But I would have probably done the same thing Sean did. And I'd be sitting there regretting that strategy call, that's for sure. Oh, here we go. Battle for second still on. 2 laps left to go between Crump and Johnson. And 2.5 seconds up the road from them. Dylan Jones is hoping that he can get to the white flag before any caution comes out. It looks like he's going to be able to make it, and the battle is going to be on for second. Crump ahead of Johnson right now. Dylan Jones is taken to the white flag. We've got 1 lap left here at the OMG Coffee Beans 205. Crump up high, Johnson looking down low. Looks like Seth Reed may have run out of fuel down there on the apron as well. So Finn's having an unfortunate end for him. Battle for second, still in Crump's favour. Johnson down to the apron. He doesn't have a whole lot of room. Can Crump get the good exit? But ahead of him, Dylan Jones crosses the line, takes the checkered flag and wins. And second place goes to Crump.
Oh, great battle between Crump and Johnson there. They're just giving it everything they had. Great racing from those two. Great side by side. Definitely a hard track to do that on at the and keep that car down low. Dylan Johnson just a clinic tonight. Just started on pole and just brought the car home all the way around. Great race by him. Great race by every driver in here. Similar to what we've seen all season.
That's Dylan Jones' second win of the season. He lost in a photo finish at Atlanta. He was one of the front runners at Darlington when he got caught in the multi-car incident running up the front there. But here he goes. He's victorious tonight in Texas. We'll have a chance to catch up with him when we come back here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello and welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway, where we just witnessed round number 10 of the Rolling Thunder Racing Series. This was the OMG Coffee Beans 205, and your race winner for the second time this season was Dylan Jones, and he did it with a 2.5 second gap over Scott Crump, who was able to hold off Ryan Johnson there in the closing laps. Jared Mogard placed a 4th position with a new livery, with Randall Nichols there rounding out the top 5. Colin Weatherholt dropped back a little bit towards the end to 6th place ahead of Jason Maines, who had a solid run for 7th. Justin Rideout gets 8th in, I believe, his first start of the season, ahead of Michael Larch and Luke Smith rounding out the top 10. It looks like a close finish between those two as well.
Yeah, Matthew Robinson in 11th, our last car on the lead lap. Then we have Trevor Williams in 12th, Jordan Berube in 13th, William Schwindenhammer in 14th, and Dee Gagliano in 15th, all of single lap down. And then our remaining drivers, multiple laps down. Seth Reed, Jacob Manning in 17th, Sean Corcoran drops down to 18th with that pit call, Jared Haynes in 19th, and Joshua Suss in 20th.
And then the 5 retirements from the race were James, Shane, Wolf, Craig, Bridge, Lane Doyle, Bo Tiffany, and Brenton Barker. But again, for the first time, for the second time this season, we have a multi-race winner, Dylan Jones, who won at Richmond and now has won at Texas. And we brought him in here. Dylan, you keep winning every 5th race of the season.
Hey, W's a W. I'll take it.
How confident were you feeling heading into tonight's race?
I don't know, but I know I needed to have a good race. I've stepped on myself a little bit the last few weeks here and doing stupid stuff and losing points left and right. So I just knew I had to come in here and execute, and being able to come in here, and I think we max point on the night, so that's going to really help us out.
What happened in that last stint? It looked like you came out of the pits with a 5-second lead, and it was starting to get a little bit scary for you there.
We were out of tire stints, and I just wanted to be sure we had more tires than everyone else left if there was a caution towards the end of it. So we backed it down a little bit and just preserved tires in case there's a late race caution.
Yeah, that was smart. A smart decision there. I saw you a couple of times fighting the steering wheel. Can you give our viewers an idea of just how tricky it was to hold on to this car?
It wasn't too bad. It was actually kind of tight. We're really wearing the right fronts, but if you had to get right down to the apron, the more you could get on the white line, the better the car would turn. But if you stepped over that, boy, you had to hold on a little bit.
So if you gave yourself a letter grade for the first half of the season, what are you giving yourself?
A C. Definitely should have did better, but tonight we got an A+.
Absolutely. Well, we go into the All-Star race next week. Are we going to be able to see you there? And how are you feeling heading into the second half of the season?
Feeling pretty confident I will make it to the All-Star race. I really love a lot of the tracks. I know we got Indy coming up, and we got Dover, my favorite track possible. So I really like the tracks we're going to, so we just can't screw it up.
All right. Anyone you'd like to thank?
Thanks to all the guys at Rolling Thunder for putting this awesome league on. You guys at GSR Network for putting on the great broadcast for us all.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. That was Dylan Jones, your race winner here tonight at Texas. And Robert, you have caught up with our second place finisher here, Scott Crump.
Well, great run there tonight, Scott. Some good battling with Ryan Johnson near the end there. How hard was it holding him off for those last few laps?
It was definitely hard. He was definitely putting the pressure on me there. I was just praying he didn't get into me or anything or wreck me there, because we both needed a good finish, second and third. Either or I would have taken, so I really wanted that second. But as long as we didn't wreck each other, take each other out, and lose a lot of points.
Yeah, definitely some great side-by-side, the two of you, through those last few corners. Second P2 for you in as many races. How do you feel about taking a break now, and what do you think you're going to be like coming in the next part of the season?
I don't know. I need to figure out some things to get on Dylan and Daniel's level, because they're in a whole different zip code. I stayed out 2 laps longer. In the long run, he was still beating me by a tenth or two. And yeah, I don't know how they do it. I mean, I'm saving tires, or I think I'm saving tires. Maybe I'm backing down too much, and maybe that's hurting too much. I don't know. I just gotta figure some things out and see what they're doing differently, because I can't get a hold of what they're doing.
Well, you got a couple week break there to do that and give them a run come into the second half of the season. Anybody you'd like to thank here tonight before we let you go?
Yeah, guys, shout out to my sponsor, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast. Give them a listen for all your sports need. Give a shout out to y'all up on the booth. Do a heck of a job. Give a shout out to Justin Rideout for running the league. He puts on a pretty good league. Shout out to all the drivers keeping it clean. Shout out to Ryan there for good hard-nosed racing, good clean racing. He definitely could have put the bumper to me a couple times if he wanted to, and glad we kept it clean. So, yeah, give a shout out to my grandfather watching, brother, and whoever else is watching.
All right, Scott. Well, and enjoy the break time because when we come back, you'll be at it again. And we look forward to seeing what you can do on the track.
All right, thank you.
And that was Scott Crump, our second place finisher. And one driver who was just behind him at the line is our third and final driver to talk to here tonight. Ryan, how badly did you want that second place?
I hope my driving showed it. I wanted it pretty bad. I mean, that was some good racing between me and Scott. With him having a lap newer tires, I didn't know if I'd be able to save enough riding behind him. It was close. I did everything I could to get second. There was just no catching Dylan. He was fast all night. He's been fast all season. But man, that was a lot of fun.
We were wondering about 20 laps to go. It looked like you were kind of just riding behind Scott there. Were you both trying to run Dylan down? Because the gap was coming down.
Yeah, I noticed that. I don't know if Scott was driving as hard as he could or not. For the most part, honestly, I was just trying to keep up and like stay with him and kind of sort of save tires. But it's hard if he was running as hard as he was. I'm not sure. I was just trying to keep up with him and hopefully have a chance right at the end. I mean, I noticed the gap shrunk, but I wasn't sure what Dylan was doing, if he was saving or what he was. But
Ryan, I'd put you up there in the group of one of the strongest drivers this season to not have a win. Does that weigh on your mind? How would you rate your first half of the season?
I could have done better. I mean, I feel like I've been up there, been running up there. I've had speed. I mean, these guys are really good. I know that. I've bitten myself in the butt too many times with strategy. I think it's possible I could have had at least one thus far, but I'm just trying to keep my head down and keep getting good finishes and just kind of see what happens. I mean, if we keep running like we did tonight, I think it'll come. Just need some luck and some strategy on our end.
Well, we're only halfway through the season, one half down, one to go. Talking about one down and one to go, where's your other croc? Our director wants to know why there's only one shoe on the table.
That's just out here for bugs. It's the other one's out on the deck. Don't worry about that.
Okay, well, director has his answer. Anyone you'd like to thank here for your performance so far?
I just got to thank Justin Rideout for putting this whole league together. You guys are broadcasting. I love going back and watching the broadcasts. My team, Luke, Josh, Randy, and I, the sponsors we got, and all the drivers for a really, really good and tough season so far. It's been a blast running all these green flag laps and having good racing.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming to talk to us, and we look forward to seeing if you can get a W in the second half of the season.
Appreciate it, guys. Here's the hoping.
And that was Ryan Johnson, our third place finisher. Well, halfway to the end of the season, Robert, and Eberhard definitely does look like the strongest performer of the season so far, but Jones definitely showed us all tonight that he's not one we should discredit.
Yeah, I think he's got to watch missing some of these races, giving some of these other drivers an opportunity to shine and show what they can really do behind the wheel of these cars. Really looking forward to the second half of the season. Really hope everybody has a great break, great holidays, and definitely going to be something to watch when we come back to racing.
Well, we would like to thank all of the competitors and the organisers in the Rolling Thunder Racing Series for putting on today's event and giving us a fantastic show. Thanks to the team today, Robert, Zach and Dougie. You make sure to check us out on our social media, on our website and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't miss another second of racing action here on GSRC. Our next race for this series will be the same time next Sunday night as we head to Charlotte for the All-Star race. But then again, the point season won't resume until 2024. All of the upcoming races for our other series are listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. Hey, I'll be in that race, and we'll see you on the track.